Grand Risings, everybody. Good evening. I'm just letting everybody in one by one so I can ensure that no dark forces are allowed in the room. If you're not muted, could you mute yourself? And when you've got questions, I'll unmute you as I go.
Okay, I've tried to unmute myself. Can you hear
And
me?
you've succeeded.
Great.
Outstanding. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I'm Ben. It's a pleasure to meet you. Thank you for making
Likewise.
the time.
Well, I really appreciate being invited onto Ley Love Down. So I've been working very hard on my research and writing for the last 31 years. And it's really great to be getting some recognition for my work.
Well, we're happy to give the recognition without a doubt and give it not meaning, because manifestly it has meaning anyway, but to give it an operational use, let's say.
Yes, I think that's right.
Is a joy. Right. I'm just letting people in as I talk. Right. So Grand Risings, everybody. I'm going to keep letting people in as they pop up in the waiting room. My name's Ben Hawkes. I'm the co-founder of Ley Love Down with Rachel. I'm going over there. She's to my left or right. I don't know where she appears there. She's just given a jazz hands double wave there to aid recognition. Before I say anything else, I'm going to ask Rachel to give the invocation to set the intent for the meeting, which is a new version of the Ley Love Down one, which I think, is it one that we published already, Rachel?
Yes, I believe on the 18th of October. So this is the one that I've got ready. So hello, everybody, and thank you for being here. And thank you very much for Trevor and Bob for being here as well, because obviously you're the brains trust for this as well. I just want to set the intent. So I've got the beautiful statement of intention that Jim Williams and Murphy Rowland, Sarah Seeger, Ben and I put together with help from Trev as well. Okay. Oh, and Sarah Graining also helped with this as well. Thank you very much, Sarah. So this can be said before you go out into the ley lines. It can be said anytime really that you feel is appropriate. It's a statement of intention for protection, both for us, for the ley lines, for the earth, and for balance. So I'll start. We call on all the benevolent beings of the utmost highest loving intent in all dimensions and in all directions of time and space to assist us to do what is right in protecting, bringing balance to, and maintaining the balance of the ley lines, portals, vortexes, and chakra points of our Mother Earth. Please close any portals which we may unintentionally open as we do this work. We do not give permission for humbug, negative intentions, or negative energies to be aimed toward us, and kindly return to sender all negative intentions, as is our divine right. Please assist and protect us as we do what is right for the good of all, always, to maintain the harmonics and balance of the natural world, for wholesomeness, joy, prosperity, freedom, and harmony within the highest timeline of love and for the highest good of all. And also need to give recognition to Murphy Rowland too for her input on that one as well. Okay, so we're all set.
Thanks, Rachel. So thank you all for coming. The idea of today is knowledge transfer, as Trevor we would say, to take what's in the Ley Love Down Brains Trust and transmit it to everybody so it can be used in the field. Robert Jameson, I'll ask Rachel to introduce everybody in a second, but it's wonderful that we have someone like Robert Jameson here. And he just made a lovely comment about having worked on ley lines and written about ley lines for many, many decades, but Ley Love Down giving him the opportunity for his research and his insight and analysis to be used operationally, to be used in the field. And that is the idea of Ley Love Down, that theory, that knowledge, that wisdom becomes something that's actionable, that will do something kinetic in the world. And when I do podcasts and interviews about Ley Love Down, one of my favorite comments is that in terms of having a effect on the world at this pivotal time, and Rachel will talk about the harmonization of the leys later, there is no other game in town but Ley Love Down, in my humble opinion. You can go on tax strike. You can write letters to your elected representatives. You can help people, which everybody should. If everybody did something nice today, then the world would change in an instant. You can go on protests, but none of these things will really have any kind of, apart from love, None of these things will have a outcome anywhere outside of the third density, the third dimension. And what we're doing here is affecting the fourth and the fifth and upwards in order to manifest a different reality in the third density. In fact, the third density will cease to exist. Now, a lot of people are looking at the election in America on November 5th and looking for that for change. Well, there will be change as a consequence of that, but anybody looking at that as a human level geopolitical analysis, I think humbly is missing the point. What we're seeing here is an energetic shift towards disclosure, towards knowing, towards seeing. The word apocalypse means to reveal. And whilst there might be people involved in the election and there might be people involved in all these political moves and manifestations and machinations around the world, what we're actually seeing is the energetic preconditions being set for us to understand exactly what's going on. And I don't mean what's going on under the hood of government or the Chinese Communist Party or election fraud or anything of that nature. What I'm talking about is understanding who we are and remembering who we are. And that's what really Ley Love Down is focused on, to balance the lays, to bring about this knowing, this seeing, this injection of wisdom, this apocalypse, this revealing. That's what we're about. And as I say, for me, there is no better game in town. So it's an absolute pleasure to see you here, and thank you for getting involved. So a word or two about what Ley Love Down and what it is and what it is not. Ley Love Down is not and never has been and never will be an exercise in empire building. What Rachel and I are not trying to do is build an organization in our name so we can have an impact on the world with our name stamped all over it. We are, of course, looking to have an impact on the world, but what this is about is empowering others to do the work. We don't want to bring people into Ley Love Down and rule within Ley Love Down. We're much more interested, and that's why I'm so heartened to see some of the names and faces that are known to me here. We're much more interested in bringing in people of knowledge and power and good intent to allow us to have them within Ley Love Down. Ley Love Down is a broad church. It's simply an umbrella for people of good intent and goodwill to come in and do the work. Now, the reason that's important is because in this third, fourth dimensional world, things like brand and things like message and things like impact are important. They're important to get people to move from a well-wisher looker to a doer. And that's the phase we're in right now with Ley Love Down. We have got operational teams in the United Kingdom, in Australia, in Canada, and New Zealand. Now, these are great people doing great things, and they don't know half of what they're capable of yet. Well, some of them do. I can see you there. But we're now in a position where we need people of goodwill and intent who can lead, who can teach, to come forward and work simply under our flag. And again, it's not that it's our flag, it's that it's a flag. It is simply something to put up and say, go there, do the work, gather there, be inspired. That's all this is. It is two things. It is a mechanism of inspiration, bringing together great people to do the work, to do great things. And it is also essentially a delivery mechanism for love. In the operational sense, that's all it is. It's a delivery mechanism for love aimed at the heart of Gaia, at the heart of Mother Earth. That's what Ley Love Down is. So my big clarion call for today is for people who know this work already to come forward to us and say, I'm willing to wear your t-shirt. I'm willing to have your name above my door. I'm willing to gather around your flag because I know by doing this together, we'll get it done quickly. We've received intelligence that if we can get our 10,000 keepers, then we can get this done in 3 months. Now imagine that. So that means scale, that means moving at volume, that means moving at speed. And that's what we need ultimately. But what I really need is someone to reappraise their use of the ringtone that's going off in my ear. Please do mute yourself, my loves. Was that you, Robert?
Yes, I'm afraid so.
Robert Jameson.
I'll turn my mobile off, okay?
World-renowned and respected author. Turn your phone off. Dear, oh dear. So that's my bit done. So I'm going to be running the Q&A section. And in terms of housekeeping, I've got 10 or 12 bits here, but I think lots of things are going to come up as we start talking. So what I'd say is, if you've got a question, please pop it in the chat, or do just put your hand up in using Zoom protocol, and then I'll call on you and we can have an actual conversation. There's not a massive amount here. I'd say it's just the right amount for a proper conversation about these issues and these subjects. So please don't feel hesitant about coming forward. So I'm going to introduce Rachel Vaughan. My co-founder, my friend, we started this thing back in December. Yeah, we're going to come up to our first anniversary soon. What are we
Yeah.
going to do? Have a Zoom call, obviously.
Yeah.
God, what an occasion that will be. So, Rachel, could you? I'm very aware that we're bringing new people in all the time. So, if you could give a quick overview of how you see Ley Love Down, give a quick overview of you, and then I'll ask you to introduce Trevor and introduce Robert, and then when we've set the panel, we'll start inviting questions in.
Beautiful. Thank you, Ben, and fantastic introduction. So for those who don't know me, I started sort of basically being in the public eye in 2018 out of necessity because of some corruption that I had been dealing with in my home state of Adelaide, South Australia for a very, very long time, my entire life. One of the things that was very, very prevalent in my mind was that I wanted to protect the children that I'd seen unalived in certain rituals, which took place in ley line crossings. I now understand why that those things had to happen in the open air. It's given me an enormous amount of impetus to get this work done. This is such an important thing. This is not just trauma for me. This is a life purpose for coming into this life and surviving so that I can do this work now. So I am so lucky that I met Ben at the time that I met him. I did have a download that I was going to get an English gentleman that was going to help me with the ley lines and bring them out into people's, the forefront of people's minds. My little part in, a worldwide movement that is happening and has been happening for a very long time. And obviously, Aboriginal peoples have been doing this work with the ley lines, with the balancing forever, for as long as humans have existed. But we all need to step up now, or those of us who are aware enough need to step up to do this work now. And this is why we're doing this work. And again, this is not about me and Ben. It's not about egos. It's about reconnecting. So a lot of the other parts of the world do connect with the natural world, but the Western world rarely does. We live in concrete jungles, a lot of us, and we don't have that connection, and we need to be engaged as well. And as Ben said, we need 10,000 to do this work, to step out into the leys, express joy, high level frequencies, preferably in groups, maybe singing, maybe with music, maybe just feeling love, bare feet on the earth, and it will make a shift. And we're right in the middle of a shift at the moment. So I had the download that the veil has disintegrated, and that was on the 27th of September was when I received that download. So we are right in the middle of the shift at the moment. We're coming into that fifth dimensional frequency, which again, I've said so many times, didn't think that was really possible. But now, ever since I heard Rory Duff say that the ley lines are harmonizing permanently in December, I finally understood what that meant. So that's the shift that we're in. So this is why this is so important to do this now and to get people out on the ground doing the work. So today is a really good opportunity just for you guys to ask questions. This is obviously being recorded. People can watch this later. It'll make a difference. I'm sure that you've all got the right questions to ask today because, there's obviously a specific number of people here for a reason. So thank you again for being here. I want to introduce Trevor and Robert Jameson. So Trevor Wee, most people here know Trevor Wee. He's been providing Ley Love Down with a lot of information, a lot of help. He's been in some recordings for us as well. Trevor's amazing. He has an incredible background. He's up in Darwin. I don't want to use the wrong language, Trevor. Maybe I'll get you to introduce yourself because I don't want to introduce you incorrectly. But could you just give us a few words about who you are, what you're about, and why you're involved?
Yeah, thanks, Rachel and Ben, and good to meet Robert as well. Because I'm interested to see what he's going to contribute. I'm sure it's all going to be valuable. Background to me, I grew up with mob and saw a lot of things, and then as you grow, mature, you learn what they actually mean. You get an understanding of what's actually going on. And then around the turn of the century, I got a big shift to get out in public and actually say things, because prior to that, I was just observing. And that's what you do. You just observe. And you do what you do because it's being to you. You do that as a contribution, sovereignty within unity, contribution to unity. You do that for the good of all, and you do what's right because it's right. And that's pretty much it. When it comes to the songline, because we call them songline, and there are a lot of nuances to these lines. There's lots of different types and all the rest of it. So I'm just going to refer to them as songline because that's Black Holloway here. And same with the vortexes. There's lots of different types. They're all dots that interrelate, but interconnect and interrelate. But anyway, I got this big, should say, shove from Spirit to start talking about this stuff, and it's been really good because one of the things that I've found is that especially when I'm doing intuitive sensing workshops, is that people go, "Gosh, I felt that all my life, but I didn't know what it was." So when we're talking about knowledge transfer, it's about assisting people to recognize the signature of what they're getting. Well, one is they're detecting it, then they're deciphering it. We're assisting them to decipher what that signature is. As I said, there's lots of different type of energy lines and vortexes, and then knowing what to do about it at the end of the day. So, and it all comes back to doing the right thing because it's the right thing. So some of you heard me explain how not all ceremony is done on Bora, but the ones that are done on Bora, they're very focused on maintaining natural harmonics and balance of the natural world because we're part of the natural world. It's like you've probably heard me say, if that rock disappears, then so do we. So we sing for the rock to continue, we sing for the sky to continue, for the water to continue. All of that intent is going into the memory field. It's assisting the base information, the syntax that causes everything to come into form in the first place. And it's assisting the maintenance of that in terms of balance. So what's happening on the planet now is big time imbalance, and the pendulum swinging back, crazy fella. And a lot of you might have felt it. But anyway, that's probably enough for now.
Thank you so much, Trevor. Much appreciated. And Robert Jameson, a new friend of mine, someone that I've always had a great deal of reverence for. So really, really appreciate you being here, Bob. So do you want to just give us a quick rundown on who you are and why you're involved?
Okay, thank you, Rachel. Thank you, Ben. Can you hear me okay? Okay, so here we go. It all started for me in September 1993, which is over 31 years ago. I was holidaying in the Philippines, and I had what my friends call a download, or the correct terminology, I suppose, would be an epiphany. I sort of went to a private school, which is a Christian school, and we had sort of prayers every morning. And I was one of these people that thought about it a lot. You know, I don't think there's been a day in my life that I've been conscious of my presence on planet Earth that I didn't sort of ask why we're here. You know, what's it all about? What's the meaning and purpose in life? Anyway, I never got any satisfaction from that, from the Christian dogma that I was taught. And I went through a bit of a crisis situation in the Philippines, which I won't go into, but I sort of made some hurtful comments to a good friend, and I sort of agonized over my careless remarks. And having left my friend, I was sitting in the back of a jeepney in the Philippines, sort of punching myself in the face for my indiscreet comments and saying, why, you know, why are we here? What's it all about? You know, and I got my download. Now, this might sort of sound very woo-woo, but it was basically that we're part of a reproductive system, that there's a Mr. and Mrs. Big out there that were, I use the analogy like a bird. Like you can imagine a bird flying around and they're looking for somewhere to build a nest, and they say, oh, I like that tree over there. You know, it's got nice branches and it's up nice and high, so you know the cats won't get there and take the eggs. And so they build a nest in the tree, then they lay the eggs, and then that sort of develops a symbiotic relationship between the tree and the bird. The bird the tree becomes a host of the reproductive system of another species. Now, sort of compare that to sort of our creator beings. I call them a creator species or creator beings that are out there, and they are looking for a suitable planet. I like that one down there, the pale blue dot thing. You know, it's not too hot, not too cold, plenty of water. Okay, so they seed life on planet Earth for the purpose of reproduction. They drive the complexity of, you know, our species, greater complexity till we've got a brain that can host their reproductive cells. Okay. Now, that in a nutshell is the download that I got in 1993. And I probably realized that it was sort of not just another one of my crazy ideas, but I thought, well, yeah, this is, you know, I'm going to kick this around for a week or two and the wheels will fall off and I'll get on with my life. Well, you know, 31 years later, 6 books, over 500,000 words in print, and the wheels still haven't fallen off. And so, you know, I found a lot of parallels between us on planet Earth and reproductive systems. Needless to say, if I've got over 500,000 words in print, that there was plenty of supporting evidence out there for that idea. Now, I'm going to get onto ley lines. It was probably 2011, 2012, something like that. And as part of my research, I came across the Robert Kuhn Earth Energy Grid and Chakras. And I expect some of the people interested in energy lines, ley lines, would have heard about Robert Kuhn. He's a bit of a mystery. They can't find a page on Wikipedia on Robert Kuhn, and apparently he's living somewhere in Australia. We had a Cosmic Consciousness Conference meeting in 2019. And Mick and Catherine, the organisers of the conference, were very, very keen to get Robert Kuhn on board. And I went to a lot of trouble, even writing to his publisher, who was the same publisher that I published through. And they gave me an address in Victoria somewhere, I can't think. And I did get a letter back, but not from Robert Kuhn, from his family, and not an address that I've never met the guy. But anyway, Robert Kuhn has the Earth's energy grid with a female energy line that goes from Lake Titicaca in Peru, across the Atlantic to the UK, to Mount Kailas in Tibet, to Mount Argon in Bali, then to Uluru in Northern Territory, Australia. And then that sweeps across South Australia, where Rachel and I live, okay? And anyway, sort of growing up in South Australia, knowing the state fairly well, I saw that line that goes from Mount Argon in Bali to Uluru, then sweeps across South Australia. And I thought, well, I wonder if that line intersects Wilpena Pound, which is a very significant geological formation. It looks like a bowl in the Flinders Ranges. Anyway, I sort of got the map out and I put a straight edge on Bali, lined it up with Uluru, and then sort of drew a line. And that line, I use Google Maps these days rather than sort of getting a map on the kitchen table. But that line does intersect Wilpena Pound. And it also, like, just very, very quickly, I don't want to take up too much time, but just on that bar, I call it the Bali to Bairnsdale alignment. That line intersects the Australian continent where the Fitzroy River flows into King Sound in Western Australia. Then it crosses the Gibson Desert, Uluru, and it intersects where the Murray River joins the Darling River on the border of Victoria and South Australia, and where the Murray River and the Goulburn River intersects, also on the Goulburn, on the border of New South Wales and Victoria, and where the Mitchell River flows into King Lake at Bairnsdale. So you've got the 5 major rivers that all sort of relate to this energy line. And just interestingly, where the Murray River, which is our biggest river, it's nothing like the Mississippi, Mississippi, nothing like the Mississippi River, but the Murray River flows south from Deniliquin and then a little bit southeast until it gets to Echuca, where it intersects with the Murray River. Then the Murray River decides to do a 180-degree turn and zigzags backwards and forwards across the Barley to Bairnsdale alignment to Wentworth, where the Murray and the Darling intersect. So you look at that on the map, and I've got heaps of maps. You can Google the Barley to Bairnsdale alignment, and you can see this Murray River that goes backwards and forwards, and it's as a straight line. It's over 330 km, and then the Goulburn River all the way to Echuca sort of follows all the way from Echuca to Shepparton, which is another 80 to 100 kilometres, follows the Barley to Bairnsdale. So there's something about rivers and these energy lines. So that's sort of it in a nutshell. I've gone on, I've actually discovered another 5 energy lines, ley lines on the Australian continent, and most of them are related to the Mouser River, water, and also interestingly, mines. I've got a Townsville to Tasmania alignment that intersects 10 gold mines. Some of them are sort of, well, most of them aren't worked, but they are former gold mines. So there's 10 gold mines on this Townsville to Tasmania alignment, a copper mine, a topaz mine, and an opal mine on one energy line. And the one from the Margaret River in Western Australia to Cairns, I can't think of the name of the river, but that's got Kalgoorlie, Boulder, with a huge gold mine. I don't know if you know, but everyone in Australia would have heard of Kalgoorlie, and they would also heard of Mount Isa in Queensland. Well, that energy line intersects Kalgoorlie and Mount Isa and Alice Springs and also Uluru. So it's a very, very significant energy line as well. So I've got, and of course the Barley to Bairnsdale alignment also intersects Uluru. So we've got the Barley to Bairnsdale alignment and the Margaret River to Cairns alignment that also intersects Uluru. So I've rattled on quite a bit, and I know there's lots of people that have got things to say and questions. So I'll leave it there. I'm very, very happy to answer questions about the energy lines that I found and the significance that they have. And if I get a chance later, Ben, I'd like to talk about what you were saying, how we need basically a proxy to get from where we are to where we need to be. And I think our energy lines are that proxy, or another word is like a conduit. It's a means by where and reproductive systems are about sort of trying to put in place a generational change, which I think is the significance of what, apart from the energy lines and ley lines and things like that, we need to change. We've got a battle on our hands here. There's dark forces out there that sort of want to keep the lid on us. And I look at it as a reproductive process whereby we can generate the next generation that'll be better adapted and better able to cope with the ever-changing planet Earth that we're on. Okay, so I'm going to leave it there. As I say, I'm just so pleased to have Ben and Rachel tap me on the shoulder and say, Bob, come and talk to us about your work and your energy lines. And it's really great to be here. And I hope to be able to participate in Ley Love Downs for the rest of the time that I'm here on planet Earth. Okay, guys, thanks for having me.
Thank you very much, Robert. And could I ask Trevor, Rachel, and Robert, can you remain unmuted for the rest of the session? What I'll probably be doing is, as we get questions in, I'll be redirecting, asking for opinion from each of you. Two things I wanted to pick up from what Robert said. The first is the idea that an author of many books about ley lines with 500,000 words in print could ever prattle on in a Q&A about ley lines is manifestly a bizarre notion. So that's the first thing. Please don't ever mute yourself or censor yourself in our company. The second is your point about the ley lines as proxy. That's a really, really interesting one. Because ultimately, if we are in a spiritual war, and I certainly believe that we are, any force, for good or bad, requires a flag, requires something to focus their efforts on.
Yeah,
if you're going to win the war. So
Yes.
that we're here talking about ley lines is interesting. It's significant. They are in and of themselves important to the system we're working in. But in terms of what we're doing here, which is focusing good energy to achieve a breakthrough to what we have to get into next and achieve a breaking of the cycle, as it were, that they're ley lines, that they're energy centers, that they're portals, that doesn't really matter. Controversial statement, I know, but what matters is we are all focused on something with good intent. So it could be ley lines, it could be mountains, it could be portals, it could be the sky, it could be the sun, it could be the moon, whether that's I don't know, whether that's a soul trap or gantry or whatever, I don't know. But we are here focused on the ley lines, and that is important in and of itself, but they are a flag that we're all rallying around to get the job done. I think that's a really interesting point, and I don't want to denigrate from the importance of ley lines at all, but it's an interesting point. One thing that occurred as you were talking, Robert, you mentioned about the UK. I'm going to ask in out of self-interest here, which is the point in the United Kingdom where the Barley to Barnsdale alignment passes?
Glastonbury, I believe.
Okay. Yeah, that makes...
Look, I'm pretty sure it's Glastonbury, but you can check the Robert Kuhn Earth Energy Grid and Chakras, and I'm pretty sure his female great dragon lion goes through Glastonbury, which annoys me immensely because I spent 2 years backpacking around the UK, and all of these places like the St. Michael, St. Mary alignment, that goes through all these ancient temples and churches and places of significance. And I didn't, I'd never heard of ley lines. I'd spent 3 years studying at Monash University in Melbourne and digesting a whole lot of rubbish there that I wish I never got involved in. But I never heard about the St. Michael, St. Mary alignment. And a lot of these, I went to Stonehenge. That's about the only place of significance that I went to. But it's really a pity that we've got all these academic. I spent most of the day today sort of arguing with some academic who thinks that the actual ancient Egyptians built the pyramids with copper saws, you know, like the 2.3 million stone blocks and all the granite, you know, was carved with copper. You know, how do these guys, you know, like, I don't know what they're smoking, but, you know, they just got no idea that, you know, 2.3 million limestone blocks that on average are about a metre square, that I worked it out that if they only had to cut through 4.7 metres of limestone, like if you've got a metre block, well, it's got 6 sides, so potentially that's got 6 sides that you've got to cut. But you know, they were in layers, so I don't have to cut the top and the bottom. You know, so that's only 4. But I just said, well, okay, if you only have to cut through 4.7 meters of limestone per block, but you've got 2.3 million blocks, that's over 10,733 kilometers of limestone, 1 metre wide. So for people that are familiar with the Australian continent, you start in Adelaide, you go to Melbourne, you go down to Hobart, up to Canberra, to Sydney, to Brisbane, across to Darwin, then from Darwin to Perth in Western Australia, back to Adelaide, and you still haven't cut through 10,733 kilometres of limestone. You've got about another 250 kilometres to go. So these slaves have really got their work cut. Anyway, it just annoys me that we've got academics that get paid well, often on our tax money, that just talk absolute. They really. There's a. I was listening to Eric von Dunigan some time ago. One of his video clips about Eric's about we were colonized by UFOs, and he said something very interesting. He said, "Look, they won't acknowledge a problem if they haven't got an answer." So I think that's very sort of insightful. If they say the ancient Egyptians built the pyramids and all these out of place artifacts and things, or that early humans were responsible for the hundreds of out of place buildings and artifacts. If it was our earlier civilization, they've got an answer. It doesn't matter that it doesn't make any sense, but they've got something to hang on to say, well, this is how they got there. But if it's not us, well, they got nowhere to go. They can go to the Eric van Donigan, but that's not going to, we haven't sort of been able to get them to walk into our university halls and, give us a talk on UFOs. So, they've got no more idea than the man in the street. So they can't. That doesn't leave them, with their academic credentials to get up on the pulpit and lecture us on what their interpretation is. But anyway, I'm carrying on a bit. So.
And that's okay. But you can be assured that any question that the answer to is aliens is not a question that's ever going to be answered in the hallowed halls or asked in the hallowed halls of the Royal Society or Oxford University or Cambridge. But yes, exactly. I look forward to that day when Rupert Sheldrake isn't censored by TED. And well, what I would say is I'd dearly like to talk to the organisers of the Glastonbury Symposium to get you over to Glastonbury to talk about this. And if you're at all interested in that, I'm fairly sure I can make that happen.
Well, I'll definitely. As a matter of fact, I'm still working at the tender age of 76, and but next year, 2025, I intend to retire, and I'd love to do some travelling, Ben, and I'd love to come to the UK and check out Glastonbury and some of those places on the St. Michael, St. Mary alignment. That's very interesting, and talk to you. That's would be really great to.
Well, who wouldn't want to come to the United Kingdom and talk to me? Honestly, open invitation.
And I've got another very good friend, Michael Seabrook, who's been a fantastic help. I spent years and years on the Graham Hancock forum until they booted me off. I won't go into that, but the problem with Graham Hancock is he believes that there was an earlier civilization pre-Ice Age, 40, 50,000 years ago, that built the pyramids. And I pointed out on his forum that, but what about all the artifacts that they find in coal that was laid down 300 million years ago, and the Dorchester pot that was found in Roxby conglomerate in Boston, around the Boston area, that was dated to 680 million years ago. So there's all these out-of-place artifacts that are not just, that can't be dated to the pre-Iron Age or the pre-Younger Dryas. But basically, as I say, they're hundreds of million years old. That they predate human civilization, but they're there, and there needs to be an explanation. But Graham Hancock didn't like me pointing out the fact that his hypothesis didn't stand up, and Graham Hancock complains endlessly about being shunned by mainstream media, which he is being shunned by mainstream media because his hypothesis is not in line with theirs. But if Graham Hancock gets very upset about him being shunned by mainstream media, then he should be a little bit more open to people that disagree with his hypothesis. I tend to think, I don't know.
I think you might be correct. I'd possibly disagree about the mainstream media piece, considering he was on the biggest podcast in the history of the world 3 times. So that gives me an indication that he's possibly in the club. And when you go to if you go to controlled opposition school, you're taught on the first day, here you shall come and no further. So the fact that he's willing to flex on one part of the argument, but not willing to flex on quite a fundamental part, gives you an indication, I don't know, that he might not be exactly who he says he is. But there we are. That's just my opinion. Trevor,
I agree.
I'm really interested in, I really liked Robert's analogy of the earth as reproductive system. What would your mob say about that as an idea for hanging this all together?
Same thing, pretty much. Like, I'm not a spokesperson for Aboriginal mob. All I can say is what tallies with observations to me from all different mob, because you go around country, not everyone saying the same thing. But you see, when I've had done that presentation with the LORE, and inside you got the LAW, right? So LORE changes everywhere, but you've got to look inside for LAW, and they're the consistencies, and that goes all around the planet, not just Australia, but just using Australia as an example. But exactly, planet Earth is a host. That's why you've heard me refer to the localized consciousness. So when we incarnate here, we got immediate access to localized consciousness. When you do work purposely, or for some people who just get downloaded like Robert in the back of a Jeep, you're tapping into other realms of consciousness. Okay. And I don't use the reference higher because of the hierarchical thing, just deeper, really, because that's a blackfellow way. Because it all comes from core. Scalar waves come from core. So inside each individual, you got core. You go deep inside, that's you with everything else. So in terms of the Earth as being a host, it's being projected there in the 3rd dimension. You've seen the story I've told there with the LORE and the LAW with the first movements. And you'll see all the theologies that come many, many thousands of years after Aboriginal mob got that story together, that version. They're all the same thing, except they personify the archetype energies, whereas Aboriginal mob didn't. They didn't turn it into persons, because people look out and they copy other people. As I've said, if you grow up with wolves, you'll copy the wolves. Yeah, but instinctively, right, you'll copy other people first. But anyway, so that fits is perfect, because the planet here is a host for something, and the narratives are going to be all over the place about, oh, it was this experiment by these 2 dudes up in the sky, whatever it is, okay? But that concept of this is a place to be, and this is where we are being. And while we are being here, actions that we do here will impact elsewhere. That's the law of correspondence, as within, so without. And so the best we can do is do the best that we can for the good of all at all times while we're here. And that's doing what is right because it is right. And that's basically what's getting sunk into the memory field to sustain this nest, to use Robert's, to follow Robert's thing there.
Brilliant. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
And we'll, I have a feeling we'll talk about this further when I interview you tomorrow. And that's by way of reminding you that I'm interviewing you tomorrow. So I'm going to go on to.
I knew that. Oh, good, bro.
Oh, my friend, we'll get in. We'll get in deep. So I've got some questions here that have come over by email. I apologize if I haven't made a note of the author of the questions. The first one I'm really enjoying. The answer to this is no, but the question is, would local councils know where ley lines are in their local areas? I mean, honestly, no, they wouldn't unless you get in fact, I do know a planning officer at Oxford County Council who's a friend of Ley Love Down, who would absolutely know where all his ley lines are. And I won't say his name, but I do know that he has changed planning applications to make sure that certain developments can't be built on ley lines. So if anyone thinks that the matrix is entirely full of bad people, you are 100% wrong. There are lots of people doing good work.
Yeah.
But there is a really interesting aspect to this question, which
Could
is
I
from
just-
an Aussie. Sorry, Trevor, go on, buddy. Yep.
That there are a lot of them do. If they come from the Freemason circle, they know what's what. But they're all, stocked by Tabby. I'm not going to say the word, right? They're stocked by Tabby. You will get it. Yeah. They are stocked by Tabby. In other words, they're paid to invert things. Don't disclose whatever. Just tell the public, no, we don't know, whatever. But then you'll see, as Rachel pointed out, and also there in South Australia, where they built all that freeway and stuff through that, what was it, Hindmarsh Island? I forgot the name of the place. Significant place, but they knew exactly what they're going to do. Okay, so you can go in there, you can get a feedback from a person at a front desk, or a feedback through an email response to a question, or whatever. They're just going to tailor it to suit, if that level is at a certain level, if the persons know what's going on, they'll just tailor it to suit, so that the public don't get an inkling that they know. Not everyone in council knows, but you'll see those mob that aren't free, they call the Masons that aren't free, they think they're free, right? I'm just going to put it like that, right? They're all in these positions. They're in various positions, but they're the ones that say, you can say this, we can't say that. And they're all stocked by Tabby.
Yeah.
Because the stock by Tabby part is that they're the ones that set all the divide and conquer mechanisms to suit that agenda of keeping division and conquering. Yeah. And so they know those mechanisms, how they work, and they feed them downlines through the Masons that aren't free. Yeah. Anyway, so I just wanted to add that.
No,
so you don't, what you got to do is you got to tune into people when you're standing in presence to them, or you can still do it through email and tune. Are they being legit, or are they gammon? Yeah. And you'll get a sense of whether they're, on the level, they're going to assist you because they're proper mob, or they're gammon mob. And then you just don't worry about it. Do things the way you do it because it's right. In other words, they are a perceived authority. And at this rate, everybody goes to them, because the indoctrination when you're young is that's the perception of where authority lies. But you'll see what's happening on this planet now. A lot of people getting the message right way, that all that stuff is gammon, and people got to get together and do right way. Anyway, sorry, long answers.
No. It's literally, Trevor, you're doing your job when you're answering my questions. And by butting in and saying, no, we have to talk about that, you're doing your job as well, brother. Thank you. So I've got a really interesting question here about Snowy Hydro Dam, which I assume is in Australia. Now, are rivers diverted, hydro dam projects moved in order to mess with the natural flow of ley lines? Can that be done? Is that even possible? I'll answer that. I open that up to either of you.
Look, can I sort of buy into that?
Of course.
The short answer is I don't know. But if I sort of relate it to the concept that I've sort of developed, and particularly regarding water. Now, you probably know that Australia is a very dry continent. So water is extremely precious to us. And water generally, like there's water in outer space. Apparently, some of the planets and galaxies have just got humongous amounts of water. But 75% of Earth's surface is covered by water in the form of the seas and oceans and things like that. Now, our bodies are something like 90% water. Water is just absolutely, I think it's the one thing that's essential for life. Now, if the Snowy Hydro scheme was a massive undertaking, what they did was to redirect a lot of the water on the Great Dividing Range. Now, the Great Dividing Range runs down the east coast of Australia. So if you're not familiar, like Brisbane, Sydney, all of that is on the east coast. And then inland is a Great Dividing Range. And that area gets quite good rainfall. And so what was happening, all the rain was dropping on the east side of that Great Dividing Range and flowing out into the Pacific Ocean. And the government at the time said, well, why don't we sort of dam up some of these rivers that are just flowing into the ocean and sending them westward into the dry interior. And at the same time, they were able to sort of dam up and create hydropower, like hydroelectricity. But they also were able to, as I say, direct a lot of those rivers inland where they grow a lot of food and feed a lot of livestock and produce a lot of economic wealth for the very dry interior. Now, I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. So similar to the mines, the gold mines and things like that. Why can I find an energy line that goes from Townsville in Tasmania to a remarkable cave in Tasmania that just happens to intersect 10 gold mines, a copper mine, a topaz mine, and an opal mine? Like, oh, well, everybody's, like all the trolls on Facebook say, well, you just draw a line anywhere, you're going to intersect, well, you don't. You can't just draw a line anywhere on the Australian map and intersect anything like 10 gold mines, a copper mine, a topaz mine, and an opal mine. It's there's something there. There's something there that is like, I talk about water. I talk about interesting geological formations. I talk about cultural, like Uluru, it's interesting geographical formation, but it's also got huge, tremendous cultural significance, particularly to the indigenous people. But it's also interesting that the energy lines, the ley lines intersect just seem to, there's little towns that pop up, they might not be in mine, but like Wagga Wagga, that's on one of my energy lines, and it's on the river, but it's a huge, I think it's the second largest city in New South Wales. Just happens to be an energy line. So I think that, people, they must seem to sort of sense that this is where I want to be. This is where I want to, build my house, have my kids go to school, where I'll go to work. And I can't help but think that's a good thing. We're trying to tap into our Mother Earth, the energy that well, Mother Earth has got a lot of energy. It rotates on its axis every 24 hours, and it goes around the sun every 365 and a quarter. So planet Earth's got a heap of energy, and what's wrong with just trying to tap into a little bit more where you sleep and where you go to work? That's my view.
I'm down
Back
with
to you, Ben.
I've got one at the end of my garden, so I'm
Yeah.
good.
Well, exactly. The number of people that, like, I'm sort of on Facebook a lot, and the people say, oh, I live in, it's one of your ley lines. Just another thing, very briefly. Like, if you look at Earth as a living entity, right? Like us, okay? Now, we've got energy. Anywhere you prick your skin, you got a nerve there, right? And if you cut your skin, you got a bit of blood that will pop out. So the whole bloody lot has got this system, this nervous system, this cardiovascular system, right? The same as planet Earth. I don't think you can go anywhere on planet Earth, up the mountains, the bottom of the sea, that hasn't got this energy. Okay, well, it's nice to think that you're on like an artery, or the major nervous systems that go through your bones and things like that. That's what people are looking for. And with energy lines, ley lines, they're looking for the big ones, the big, powerful ones. But but the energy of planet Earth, the ley lines, compare them to arteries and veins that are the big ones that carry the blood, to the capillaries that just sort of go everywhere. No matter where you are, you're going to be on a bit of planet Earth's energy. Okay, but the energy lines, like I find the Bali to Bairnsdale alignment, and that they're the big ones. And I suppose, I tell the fruit people that growing fruit on the River Murray, you ought to be getting into the marketing of energy lines and say, look, these apples and pears and grapes and the wines that I produce, they are grown on the Bali to Bairnsdale alignment. We want a premium. You guys are getting a good deal here. You're drinking a wine that's got Earth's energy. But I've written, the guy that was talking before was talking about local government. I've not just about 5 or 6 weeks ago, wrote to 9 local governments from Wentworth on the Murray-Darling right through to Bairnsdale. Wrote to 9 local governments, and I got one reply and said, thank you very much, but we're not really interested. And the other 8 didn't. So, well, one sort of said, well, we'll talk to people, but they weren't interested in coming on board and promoting their community as part of this energy that runs through Earth in the form of ley lines that can have this beneficial effect for their food and also for tourism. Like I as part of that letter that I sent to the local governments, I included an image of the books that I wrote that had 600 in less than a week, had 605 likes. And I said, look, just look at that. The people that are interested in energy lines, there's a shift is happening. And why don't you get on board and tell people that, hey, listen, you come from Swan Hill, you come from Bairnsdale, you come from Wentworth, you come from Echuca, and come and visit us, because we've got energy. We're on, it's the same as Glastonbury, same as St. Mary's Mount, all those places. People go there because they are famous. They're made famous by, what was his name? Can't think of his name, but the guy that wrote the Old Straight Track. Yeah.
Well, I will say this: when I turn up to the Crockerton Village show with a courgette the size of my daughter, because I've been growing them at the end of my garden, I think people are going to start standing up and taking notice. And when I get that picture, Robert, I'll send it over to you.
Yes, please. I'll send it off to the local governments.
Absolutely.
I'll send it to every one of them. Say, ha ha ha! Look at that.
Let those poms are doing it.
Yeah. Well,
you idiot.
We're sitting on a potentially a tourist gold mine there. Like that, as I say, from Shepparton, the Goulburn River changes direction, follows the Bali to Bairnsdale line from Shepparton. You probably never heard of these towns, but from Shepparton to Echuca, that's the Goulburn River. From Echuca to Wentworth, the Murray River zigzags backwards and forwards. So you've got 3 major rivers: the Darling, the Murray River, and the Goulburn River. They're the 3 major rivers in Australia, and they follow the Bali to Bairnsdale alignment for something like 500 kilometres. If you actually got in the river and went like that, you'd probably be doing, maybe a couple of 1,000 kilometres, because it zigzags, particularly that's low-lying area. The river just zigzags all over the place. But if you go on Google Maps and draw a line from Wentworth to Shepparton, it's probably about 450 kilometres. And that is the Bali to Bairnsdale alignment. And it's food and fruit growing areas. And those people should be coming on board and saying, look, we're on this energy line. Enjoy our fruit that is grown with the water, nourished by Earth's energy. Anyway, that's I'll let people comment
Can I
on that.
can I add a couple of things in there?
Of course,
Can I
Jack,
add a
go on.
couple of things in there based on what Robert just, yeah? Firstly, marketing is turning faults into features, or that's one of the tenets of marketing. And then when you have the diacritic thought form, energy moves, so you've got the currency they use is money. It's quantified. You got the syncretic thought form. The currency used is love. It's qualified. So all these mob work in councils, they're working under this system where you got to keep that MO going of, it's all the money, money, money. And everyone focuses on the money and think they can't do anything without money. Well, you can. It's just that you got to do it to find out. Well, once it's done, you find out how easy it is. But anyway, I just wanted to add that. So with the marketing, because back at the turn of the century, I was telling all the mob there at Wollumban, they didn't want to, the loggers, I was saying to mob, well, just tell them to, they've been in a family business for 3 generations. Just say, you can still make money, but do it with ecotourism. Save all the platypus, save all the old growth forest and everything else. Don't log them, and you get people come. Well, as it turned out, we were able to stop the logging there, and you go there now, and there's a heap of businesses that are basically based on ecotourism. Whether it was those old families or not, I don't know. But at any rate, back to the other thing. Just started off with the snowy. It will be difficult to say what energy lines were doing what before they diverted, unless you were here before they diverted. Now, we use bones, other mob use modern instruments. And the other thing is that with the straight line stuff, always look, because I never seen Robert's work at all. I only saw that Robert, was coming on here, and I thought, oh, that would be good. It'd be lovely to meet someone who knows all this stuff. Okay, so I've never seen any of Robert's work at all before. But Robert, I refer to the dodecahedron system and the other floater straight line systems as the skeletal system. The song lines and what also incorporates the ley lines, I refer to as the vascular system. And the Hartman-Curry lines I refer to as the nervous system. So that, and I've been doing that for a fair while. But anyway, it doesn't matter. Or the only thing here is that when we're communicating, when people are using different words to describe the same thing, sometimes it can be confusing. So I was just letting you know what I've already used in terms of reference to different energy types and line types, because even under those 3, apart from the Hartman-Curry, which are just they're just there, they're every 4 meters and every 20 meters, and you don't get away from them. Okay, but all the other ones, and the dodecahedron, they're fixed. They all go into Wilpena pound. That's the only node on the continent here, and you get all the floating ones. But the other thing is that I had this hypothesis, so I couldn't work out why these mob draw these straight lines. And I was thinking, okay, whatever. So I went to Carnac in northern France, and I went to Britain, and also up to Hebrides. And I looked at some of these straight lines, and we're standing there. I'm going, this line goes off here, and it curves like this. And so the hypothesis, and then I found other people on the internet who do it with instruments. So I'm using body to me, and it's been validated by people who do it with instruments. So what is quite likely has happened? They identify important point A from A to B, where that straight line crosses over the meandering vascular system. That's where they put the menhir, the dolmen, or barrow, or standing stone, or whatever. And then you got the straight line created, and then people walk it. But if there's a cliff, you don't walk it, But you go there and you see, so there's actually 2 lines. One is the conscious imprint. I call that the barcode. I refer to that as the barcode. That's the conscious intent embedded or entrained in the physical energy field that exists there anyway. And then you got the original vascular system line, which is a wavy line. Because when you look at that Bali to Barnstar line, and you draw it as a straight line, you'll see that the military bases are not actually on that straight line. And that'll give you an idea of where the curve actually is, because they got the information of where to actually build. And even if the gold mines incidentally turned up on the Townsville to wherever it was, the Tasmanian one, that's circumstantial, but highly relevant whatever the word is, prevalent. What's the word? Anyway, circumstances. But you will find there's other ones as well, because once you tune into body to you, or you got instruments, you find the curvy lines, and you'll actually find more stuff, and you'll see when you, like, I drove through Queensland, I'm going, oh, this line, and every time we came to a village, there's a Freemasons hall, and so the villages are on the little towns are on the lines. Sorry, the Masons who are not free, their halls. Anyway, we're just feeling the lines. We're going and we're feeling the line, and the line goes straight through this town. And then the next one, it goes straight through the town. So these mob knew it a long time ago. And we've got, the Strongs have got evidence that they emailed this document to me, where these Masons who were not free were directing other ones who were in the academic system, like they're at universities or whatever, and they're doing the research and they go into sites, and they were telling them what to do to work out how to work out what's happening with a site. And they were saying count. So that blackfellow way, whenever I see anything, I count. There's another long story to that. Some of you folks might have heard it, but you count because the vibration is all in sequence. Yeah. You get the zero, then you get the first vibration, second vibration, third, fourth, and fifth. And some of you have seen how I do that blackfellow law, LORENLAW, up to the fifth on certain presentations. It goes further than that, but that's enough usually for most people. But anyway, so that's just a little bit of feedback about the straight lines. They're relevant in terms of they're joining one place to another place. But there's within, there's another line, that's the wavy line. And the other thing is, they don't just meander horizontally, they also meander vertically. So they can come up near the surface, then dive down deep. And so you walk along and you think, oh, it's disappeared. Well, it hasn't, it's just gotten a bit further away from you. But if you really tune into it, you'll find it. So given that it can go vertically and horizontally, what happens when you got shear, where it's going down and away, yeah, or up and to the right, whatever, the opposite. So these are just little nuances that you find. And sometimes it matters not that you've actually lost it. What happens is you pick up the signature, you put that in knowledge base to you, and then you go further along. I say, hey, that's that same line we went past there, because it's got the same signature. Okay, so we went through the Blue Mountains where there was UFO activity on these lines, and I felt this line as we were driving through, and we went, I don't know, about 20 Ks, meandering in another place. We came out another place and said, hey, that's that same line, because it's got the same signature. And a lot of little places I've been where this sort of things happen. But anyway, so the water is very important because, as I've mentioned before, it carries memory as well. And it's a different format in terms of the curved tetrahedron scalar with the water than it is to the Earth structure one. But nonetheless, it's still carrying memory. It fluxes and changes very quickly, whereas the Earth one, it just keep it there until it's fragmented. So those of you heard me talk before about fragmenting to break up the syntax. Yeah? Whereas the water, it's gonna sort of do it on its own accord anyway, because it mixes, it flows. If you got it sitting in one spot, you program it. Like that scientists and all the classroom experiments they do with memory in water. But so hard to say what the hydro would have done to what was there existing before, unless you were actually there before. But it would have changed something, and whether it was detrimental to Earth system stuff, or just beneficial for human system stuff, which is diacritic, not syncretic. That's neither in or there. For someone like me, I just observe and say, okay, that's happened, that's passed, and we just know what we do now is good. And I see Jim's wearing Pink Floyd shirt. That's excellent.
Yeah, I noted that too.
I stopped listening. I stopped listening to music in the late 70s when I realised all the caca stuff that's in there in the movies. I stopped watching movies, but the only mob I continued to listen to was Pink Floyd. And good thing I did, because their lyrics got even better and better all the way up to The Wall.
Well, interesting that the guitarist was the only one to talk about what's actually going on in Ukraine, which I thought was fantastic. A quick admin notes. Sarah Greening, could you drop onto the chat the link for the Australia Telegram group? I'm having trouble doing it. I can see a lot of chatter going on with wonderful, crazy people in Tasmania who want to connect. You can connect on the Australian Telegram group and get going. And it's really interesting listening to two well-credentialed, knowledgeable and wise people talk about the same thing in different ways. And what I'm seeing on the chat and a lot of questions that I've been getting is a search for certainty and for detail and for absolute knowing about something. And what I would say is, I don't think we're going to get absolute knowing about all of this until we're all dead. And until someone comes down and says, I was here at the beginning and you guys have really got it fucking wrong. Let me tell you about it. And I don't know what that looked like. I know he'll be 60 foot tall or whatever.
The way I put it is that if we've got a decent framework for being in the now, well, that's decent, right? When we learn more to make it more decent, well, that's business to us as we learn. And that's it, because we're all learning till the day we're not here. Exactly like you said, Ben.
Yeah, it's a really good way of putting it. And part of my journey has been to build a framework of reality that I understand and can communicate, and I add to it every day. And I pick up from a lot of questions we get, which is, I've just seen one saying, what's the difference between ley lines and dream lines? Now, the answer to that is it's just a different way of talking about the same thing. And a lot of this kind of scratching around for absolute certainties before taking action, we just got to cut it out. We've just got to crack on. One of the things I do when I speak to clients is this idea of pushing happiness over the cognitive horizon. I'll be happy when this happens. Wrong. Be happy now, make a choice. And that's a decent correlation to what's going on here with Ley Love Down. We need people to be happy to take action, to go out and do, whilst not in possession of all the facts, but in the possession of goodwill and intent and a reasonable idea about how to do the work. So that's what I wanted to say about that one. And I'm seeing some lovely chat on here as well. Go ahead, Trevor.
Very, very, very good point. But when people get on country, it's, you can call them songlines, you can call them ley lines, but there are different ones. And when you get on country, you can get ones that if you've got humbug, you need to know to keep self safe. So when we're doing those demarcations of working out, the different types of energy fields, that is important. Whether you categorize them as songlines or ley lines or whatever, that doesn't really matter. But you get different type of field where you got to be more careful. As we say, you got sit down country and you got sickness country. Yeah. Ones you don't put your tent on or whatever, and ones that's okay. So that classification system or way of deciphering what you're detecting is important. Yeah.
Well, part of putting together a working belief system is being willing to be wrong. So that's okay. That's okay. So I've got quite a few interesting questions from. Absolutely, it's all good, brother. It's all good. So I've got some interesting questions from Sally in North Southwest Australia, and she's asked some questions about whether her actions and doing the work will heal bad energies. My response to that is, again, talking about lack of detail required. If you're doing something with good intent, then manifestly you are doing the work, as we call it, and you are healing. And the second question is around almost remote and system healing. So I've got a ley line at the end of my garden. It's part of a very ancient fortification system called the Wansdyke, and no one knows whether the Celts or the Picts put it there. I live in Somerset, northeast Somerset. Now, that when I'm working on that particular ley line, my intuition is that by working on that ley line, I'm actually working on the wider system as a whole. So starting with Robert, is that a reasonable proposition to make? Is that happening, or is that just, well, not that it matters, but is it just going on in my head?
No, look, the way I see it, and like I'm always careful about sort of projecting my interpretation, because I sort of grew up in a Christian, and there was this is what you can say, and anything else is going to be wrong. Which I prefer the shaman. Like they. It's quite okay to sort of have different varying points of view. Okay, I'll get on to my interpretation. Okay, a good way to put it is to talk about the work of Bruce Cathy, a New Zealand airline pilot who sort of gained notoriety back, I think it was in the 1950s, something like that. But Bruce Cathy's passed away in 2018 or 2013, I think. But he cited UFOs. And he was told at the time, look, don't talk, Bruce, don't mention you saw a UFO, because if you do, it's not a good career move, da, da, da. But anyway, Bruce Cathy got to be a go-to person for people that saw UFOs that didn't want to report it to the authorities. And anyway, he basically plotted where he saw the UFOs, okay? And he came up with a grid, and he basically believed that the UFOs were sourcing this energy, Earth's energy. Bruce Cathy also, back in the 50s and 60s, I think it was, when the French were testing atomic devices on Mururoa Atoll in the Pacific, and they were very, very adamant that there was absolutely no harm in them testing their atomic bombs, and all the people in New Zealand said, well, if there's no harm, why don't you try the Mediterranean or somewhere a little bit closer to home? What do you have to, you French people, do you have to come to the other side of the world to test your nuclear bombs? But anyway, Cathy was told, look, our information tells us that the French are going to test that nuclear bomb this Wednesday, whatever it was, at 11 o'clock. And Cathy said, no, they can't do that. They are timed devices that you can only test a nuclear device at a certain place at a certain time. They just don't happen if they're at the wrong place at the wrong time. And anyway, he was sort of told that, you know, like, Bruce, you're a nice guy and all the rest, but that's pretty, you know, woo-woo stuff, and it's obviously a load of rubbish. And anyway, Cathy said, well, look, what I'll do, I'll write it down. This is where they'll test it, and this is at the time they'll test it, and I'll put it in a self-addressed sealed envelope. Do not open intellectual property inside, and you can open it after they test the bloody thing and find out that I'm right. And he was right. but anyway, Cathy basically said that military bases are built on energy lines, right? And the powers that be, the deep state, the military industrial complex know this, and governments know this, but military bases are on these energy lines. And I'll just let you, like, South Australia is referred to as the defence state. And we've got BA Systems, we've got ASC Shipbuildings, that's submarines, we've got Lockheed Martin, Badcock, Raytheon, Saab, and Naval Group, all headquartered here in South Australia, which is our defence, which is, as I say, referred to as the defence state. And I thought, well, it'd be interesting to check to see if we've got, you know, our military bases aligned. And you can go to my website and find that we've got the defence base alignment, and we've got RAAF Edinburgh, we've got Port Wakefield Proof Range, we've got Kaltana Training Centre, and RAAF Woomera, all aligned. So I think Mr. Bruce Cathy might have been onto something there. But anyway,
he was. They also worked out that they'd never bombed Hiroshima and Nagasaki because the time was wrong, and then they got all these pilots to say we firebombed the place. It's all wooden houses and it looked like an atomic bomb. How they got those images? Like, this is a narrative, right? But how they got those images of the bombs going off over Japan itself, we don't know if that was early AI or whatever. But according to Bruce's thing, that the bomb can only be detonated with certain angle, time, sun, and all the rest of it. It shows that the times that they dropped those bombs on Japan were not didn't fit. So people went looking for evidence that something else happened.
Yes.
Well, gentlemen, I will ask.
It's a narrative. I'm not saying whether it's right or wrong, but
do we really think that the state within a state would not have had a working version of Photoshop back in 1945? I know damn well they would have. Absolutely.
I used to do it in a dark room. That's what we call the wet industry before the dry industry. I'm an imager. That's what I used to do. I used to do it in the darkroom before they built the graphic paint box. I managed the first graphic paint box in the Southern Hemisphere. I briefed forensics to how to look for manipulation in digital data.
So I'm going to send you over a
So we
video.
knew how to do it in the wet. I knew how we do it in the wet system before the dry system. The digital is what we call the dry system.
Well,
Anyway,
I've got a birth.
Sorry.
I've got a
Very good,
birth.
Robert.
It's all good, brother. I've got a birth certificate for an ex-American president called Barry that I want you to have a look at after the Zoom call. What's interesting is that one of those companies you mentioned, one of our UK leaders at Ley Love Down was actually the head of occupational therapy for one of those companies. And they used to make missiles that, killed children and stuff like that. And she was recalling when I met up with her recently that lots of people, up to and including the C-suite, would occasionally pop their head round her door and say, "Look, can I just check? Is the world run by satanic paedophiles?" And she'd go, "Oh, yes, it is. Yeah, but it's okay. Everything's going to be all right. Okay, thanks very much." And she was telling people how they should sit and whether they should sit on a ball or a office chair, but she was also counselling them about the true state of the world, which I think is rather fantastic. But the wider question there, actually, Rachel, you tried to say something about 25 minutes ago, and I think you were overtaken by events. Do you remember what you were going to say?
Well, it was just the fascination with this ley line running through all of these gold mines. And I know that there's definitely a correlation between ley lines and quartz, and gold grows with quartz. So I just thought perhaps, Robert, that might be an explanation for why there are so many gold mines on that significant alignment.
Yeah, yes, well, Rachel, I sometimes sort of cringe a little bit, and Trevor mentioned about the snowy and things that, is it right to be diverting the water and things like that? And, is it really, mining? Like the Bali de Bairnsdale mine has got, Olympic Dam and Prominent Hill, plus a whole heap of ancient gold mines. And so, the gold is there, but you go in there with these, earth moving equipments and rip it all up and, tear down the trees and things like that. Now, I draw an analogy between the reproductive system. Okay, now the female body, when she's inseminated with male sperm cells, initially thinks, I'm going to get these little bastards out of here. I'm not really happy about this sort of reproductive system where, that little, fetus in there sort of feeds off my body for the next 6 months or 9 months, whatever. So there's a sort of a destructive, a parasitic side of the reproductive system, which I sort of relate to the parasitic side of us being on planet Earth, ripping into the Earth and all that sort of stuff. But the significant thing here is that if you just look at us as being a reproductive system, well, our reproductive system has basically got the potential to change the behavior of the female host. Initially, when those little sperm cells, the 300 to 600 million sperm cells, are inseminated in the female body treats them as parasitic and just basically bumps a whole lot off. And she coats selective sperm cells with a chemical called immunogamma-globulin. And then leukocytes from blood come around and chop up all the IgG-coated sperm cells. But, and this is the most significant thing, is something basically throws the switch in the female body and tells the female body that rather than defending, she's got to help. And then the female body basically helps. The cervical contractions will help the flow of sperm cells into the lower womb and into the right oviduct, and then help them penetrate the hard wall of the female egg. So if we are looking at ourselves as part of that reproductive system, what we've got to do not sort of deny that there's bad things out there, that there's not these defense bases and there's not these, earth moving equipment ripping into the planet Earth, or that there's a military industrial complex out there that is basically trying to wipe out population, and population control is very similar to what the female body does to sperm cells. She just bumps off. But what we've got to do is to work out, hey, listen, what do we have to do to help our female planet Earth throw the switch and start helping rather than defending? Okay, so there's bad people out there, yes, but like the reproductive system, those little sperm cells can say, hey, listen, you need me more than I need you. And we should be saying to the planet Earth, hey, listen, if we're part of their reproductive system, we're pretty bloody important. And what we've got to do is to find out what they need in the form of strength and quality of character, that type of thing. We've got to be that, like Darwin got some things right. It's a selective process. The species that are the best adapted to survive in Earth's ever-changing environment are the ones that survive. We've got to work out what our creator being, the ones that seeded life on Earth for the purpose of reproduction, we've got to work out what qualities of character they need for their future offspring. They might like a turd, like maybe Bill Gates has got the inside running, but I don't think so. I think the Bill Gates and the deep state and all those people are there to test our strength of character and the qualities that hopefully the parent species want for their future offspring. And if we are, then rather than defending, hopefully our female planet Earth will decide to throw the switch and help us on our way. I'm going on too long, Ben and Rachel. But anyway, hopefully I got my point across there. The interesting thing about about reproductive systems, only 30 years and 6 books and 500,000 words, and the idea keeps on giving.
Well, a couple of points to make in response to that. First of all, when you were saying the really important bit, the time was 11:01, 3 ones here, which did not escape my significance. Second, I get a feeling we're going to be listening to that particular rant on Instagram in 100 years' time, because you've absolutely encapsulated, very briefly, I know you won't feel like that, but very briefly, the nature of the fight that we're in. And the nature of the fight we're in is to say, well, actually, I shouldn't be working out what I need myself right now. I should not be doing for this. It's JFK. Do not ask what you can take from your country, I paraphrase, but what you can give. It's time to be servants who put in rather than masters who take out. That is the time we're in this particular spin round the materium, in this time before. Well, anyway, so we're getting to the second half of the second hour now. So Robert, I'm going to take that because it was perfect as your closing statement, and I'm going to congratulate you on saying something so inspirational and saying sperm twice and insemination twice in such an inspirational speech. I think that's got to be some sort of record. Trevor, what are your closing thoughts for today's session?
Well, mine are a really classic blackfella cop-out, right?
Is that a thing? Has that ever been a thing? Blackfella cop-out.
Yeah.
All right, fair enough. Well, I'm going to make the T-shirt of that.
And it goes like this, right? We know we got to do the right thing. At the end of the day, some of you have seen that graphic where you got one object and it's actually a complex shape, and you shine a light from one way and it forms a shadow of a square, light from another way, shadow of a triangle, light from another way, shadow of a circle, and then everyone is labeled as true. Each shadow is true from where the light was shone, and then in the middle it points to truth, which is a complex shape that holds all three. Yeah. So at the end of the day, as I've said, blackfella way, just observe. and not just us mob. I mean, lots of mob all around the planet. You know, Zen mob, Guru mob, whatever. You know, they all say just observe, because at the end of the day, the planet is unfolding as it should. Yeah? Same as the universe will unfold as it should. So whether we flick the switch or what, we got to do, because of law of correspondence, as within so without, we do what's right is right. We go in without ego. We just do that. And Mother Earth probably already switched the switch 200 years ago. We just don't perceive it like that because we're in this linear time thing sort of stuck down here. Do you know what I mean?
Mm.
So the events that the events could play out over 500 years, the ones that are critical to the thing, you know, you can say people out there to get us to jump up and down, to make us realize that we're entrained in the wrong thought form and we've got to get out back into the other thought form. I think I discussed with you, Mob, about this guy who did this thing with that wavelength, and the cultures get, you know, really enlightened and then they, you know, subdued again. But that's because there's controls. There's just too much in the narrative. Basic to cop out, mate. The planet will unfold as it should. I got a meme that says this plan, it is formed by your conscious intent. And there's a picture of an earth. Okay.
Yeah.
So this plan, it, right? But that's actually planet. But I write it as this plan, it. Yeah. And the words plan and it is divided by the top of the planet Earth. Yeah. So this plan, it is formed by your or is being modified or whatever you like, you know, by your conscious intent. So that's it. It's all about intent. And the graphic that I got for the intent, this guy had his medicine drum in Wollongbar, and he getting everybody to put their symbols on it. You know, if they were Sikh, if they were Hindu, if they were Krishna, if they were Christian, if they were whatever, you know, putting the symbols. And he asked me to put the symbol on it. So I drew this tent, little tiny tent. And inside, I put a light bulb with a smile, little radiation. And he said, "What's that?" Because he never recognized it. I said, "That's conscious intent."
Oh, Trevor, my love. There are a
Anyway,
couple of points I need to
just thought
make
I'd
in
share that as
response.
a closing statement, folks. So basically, what I'm saying is, it's what here. It's a mental thing. We create, you know, it's a mental environment, and
Yeah.
we're in the 3D. So we got the conscious and the physical stuff. We got to stay safe because it's right to stay safe, and ego or not. And anyway, that's it. So I don't want to say use that one because someone pointed out, you know, with that what do you call it, the spell casting, everything else. This might be a bit of a stretch, but they say bless when it's be less, right? So bless. So now I've started to tell people be more. Okay.
Mm.
So be more you is what I say. Be more you. And that's good. Be more you. When you think about it, the maritime system is unmoored. And when you come to the earth-based system, yeah, the land law, then you're moored.
Mm.
This is a big stretch here, but be more you, folks. Love you.
It's yes,
Much love to all.
that is a big stretch, and I can't wait for the 5D business that is going to be mine and your t-shirt company, Trevor. That's going to be a sight to see.
Well, you're going to have to wait.
100%.
You have to wait.
I will say though, any meme that you have to take more than 2 minutes to explain is not a meme. Let the meme do the work, Trevor. That's all I'll say to you. And I've also seen
Well, I haven't got it here to show you, so I just explained it longhand.
It was done beautifully. And for me, the point is that just because we know we've already won, it doesn't mean we shouldn't fight. In fact, we are living, well, we're in a reality where time doesn't really mean what we think it means. So just because we've won over there, it doesn't mean we have to fight over here. We still have to fight now in order to get the result, even if we've already won. And if anyone can explain that to me, I have a £50 note that's yours. So, Rachel.
Okay, easy. What it's called is holding the position.
What? Go on. You've
It's
got 2
called
minutes,
holding
Trevor.
the position. The fight is still on, but you've got that position. Hold the position. That's okay. £50. Thanks.
Happy days. Hopefully, I can get you on PayPal. See, this is what you do, Trevor. I've just accused you of taking 3 to 4 minutes of our lives to explain a meme that should be self-evident from being the meme, and then I've said something incredibly complicated. You've banged on my head. This is what it is. And you've also done it in my own bloody metaphor as well. Now that is emotional intelligence. Right. So Rachel Vaughan, friend, co-founder, seer, magician. What are your thoughts? Closing statement, please, my love.
Well, if ever there was a time, just to follow on from what Robert was saying about, you know, the earth throwing a
About
switch.
sperm and insemination, yeah?
And that too.
Yeah.
If ever there was a time for that to happen, it's with the ley lines harmonizing. We are coming out of the satanic age, which is her treating us, well, perhaps treating us like a parasitic. And I don't think it's the earth doing that, but we are, you know, perhaps operating under some outside force that we don't even recognize, that these people doing these terrible things might be operating under a force that is treating us like a parasite. And they often try and tell us to believe that we are the parasite on this planet, which we are not. A cancer on the planet, which is absolutely rubbish. The throwing of the switch, I believe, is the harmonization of the ley lines, of the permanent harmonization of the ley lines at the end of this year. So again, this is the most important time. If she's going to throw that switch and bring in harmony, we've got to step up and do the work.
100%. And as you were saying that, it was 11/11 here in the United Kingdom.
Oh.
So what could make more sense? Absolutely. Well, I think we've got the phrase for our New Year's marketing campaign. We've got to throw the switch. We've got to be part of the solution, without a doubt. So, damn right, Rob. Damn right. So, Rob, thank you so much for your time and your wit and your sense of fun. It's been great having you on. Trevor, as ever, buddy, thank you so much for your sense of humor, which I know that you need when interacting with me. I'll drop you an email about the interview tomorrow. Rachel, as ever, thank you for inviting me on this crazy, crazy journey. And to you all, thank you for being here. Thank you for holding the line. Thank you for holding your position. We are moving into the harmonization coming up to Christmas, which we all know was the birth of Jesus Christ. But his name wasn't Jesus Christ, and he wasn't born on the 25th, but none of that matters. As we're going past Christmas, we're going to get into the harmonization, and it's so important that we all get behind this flag, and that flag is Mark Love. So I need everybody here to be the change, be the inspiration, be the focus, be the nucleus for groups in your area. Go to leylovedown.com, get onto the Telegram chat, get down into regional Telegram chats, get your groups together, take action. 1 second. You're right, darling. You go swimming. Oh, no, no. Stop there. Stop there. Stop there. Stop there. Stop there. Stop there. I love you. Bye-bye. Sorry, mate. See you later, my love. So my daughter was about to break the no social media rule. So yes, don't allow your kids to be on social media because they're always looking at the eyes, as Rachel knows. God bless her. She's hilarious. And she's part of the next generation, which is very, very important. So please tip yourself over from well-wishing, from looking, from thinking into doing. It's incredibly easy. We've laid it all out for you on the website. We put the protocols there. We can't do it for you. You need to get out of your homes and go and do it. I'm very lucky. I've got one at the end of your garden. Everybody's not so lucky. So please go to the website, get involved, get on the Telegram group, start doing, start organizing, start loving, start thinking, start making it happen. And we look forward to seeing you on the next call. What I'll ask is Rob, Trevor, Rachel, Fogg, and Sarah, if you could stick around on the call, we'll have a quick debrief and then we need to move into another call. So thank you so much. God bless you. And bless is about the intent. Bless you. Be more you. And have a wonderful day. Have a wonderful sleep. Go well. Thank you very much. Much love from Ley Love Down. Bye-bye. That's all the crazy waves. Crazy waves. As all these wonderful people leave my Zoom room.